Let's talk about Rome Total War and the Europa Barbarorum mod. I played this, I don't know, maybe 2 decades ago at this point, and it's a big inspiration for Historia Realis. Um, I really liked Vanilla Rome Total War, despite its problems, right? It was just this beautiful historical experience. The music was great. The art was great. It had a great gameplay loop. Just a great game. But of course, it had its problems, like I guess all games do. It's very not historical in many aspects. So it had a lot of wacky units, like the dogs, the flaming pigs, stuff like that. And Egypt was completely ahistorical, right? They had this ancient Egypt when you should be seeing Hellenistic Egypt. So that was very, very strange decision. And you had the 3 Roman factions as well, which I think was good in some senses because it showed the infighting between families in Rome and how in the game that culminated with the end game civil war. So it wasn't, I think the split of Rome into 3 factions wasn't all bad. It was a good metaphor. But of course, Rome wasn't split into 3 factions that governed different cities, so like the game portrays. So that turns out a bit weird. And the squalor mechanic, I remember in particular being quite annoying as well. If you want to be nitpicky about the game and all of that. But it was still a great game, right? Especially for its time. Very amazing. Um, and then of course there was the mods. It was a highly moddable game, and my favorite one by far was Europa Barbarorum, which commonly called EB. Took a while to come out because there was just so much, right? I think initially they just wanted to make the barbarian factions a little bit more historical, and they went for the whole thing. They decided to, now let's make the whole game more historical, and that was just, they really went all in into that mission. They did the research, and I think they did something incredible there. Like to this day, I think it's an incredible thing. And I do remember completing one vanilla campaign as Rome. I remember fighting the Civil War as the Julii, as the game called them. Uh, and with EB, I finished the campaign as well. I My very first campaign in EB was the as Epirus. You start as Pyrrhus, king of Epirus, and I played that all the way to the end of the campaign, and it took 3 generations. So I remember that in my game, Pyrrhus died very early, and that was like my fault. I killed him in a battle, and he had one daughter and no sons. I'm pretty sure, and his daughter married um, this guy who was called. I remember calling him at the time Aishrion, but I think the how you pronounce that, looking back now, it's like Aescrion, something more closer to that. Aescrion Gargareus. I still remember the name. Pretty sure it was that. And that guy, the guy who married the daughter of Pihus, became my king after Pihus died. And he was amazing. He had all of the stars, you know, Rome Total War. You had the commander stars. He got all of the stars. He was great. Conquered a lot of stuff, and then I continue with his child, who was named Dionysus. So that guy became king, conquered more stuff, and then his son became king, and that was Glaucus, and that was the guy who finished the campaign for me. And this was a very hard campaign. I played on very hard, which was actually very hard. Um, you had to be very conscientious when fighting the battles, because you couldn't lose many troops. There wasn't much money going around in EB. But yeah, I managed to finish that campaign. Yeah, I remember I could only get the cheapest phalanxes because I just needed so many troops. I couldn't really upgrade my armies. So when I played my next campaign after that as Rome, I lowered the difficulty to medium, just so I could actually recruit different troops and try different stuff. Because on very hard, I had to really always play a certain way, play optimally, just to get by. And yeah, that was not super fun, but the challenge was nice. And in my Rome campaign, I also remember my main characters a little bit. So at the start, I remember I played with a bunch of my main generals were Scipii, as the as Vanilla called them, but this was EB. And after a while, they adopted into the family a something Sempronius Tuditanus was his name. I don't remember his first name. And that guy became my main guy, and he went on to become Augustus, because that was something you could do in a B. So he became the Emperor of Rome. He had 2 sons, and those guys got the name Caesar, which was kind of interesting, right? Because Caesar only became a name for heirs during the empire because a Caesar was emperor. So they that was kind of weird, but I knew what the game was trying to say. Like, okay, these guys are the heirs to the empire. Um, and I remember they conquered a lot of Asia. These sons, they went into Asia, Minor, and then Syria, and fought there. But at this point, this was like late game, and I was getting a lot of crashes and issues. And I did not like the imperial reforms of the army. I thought the previous troops looked better. I don't remember if it was the Marion troops or I think that's what the game called them. So I eventually gave up on that campaign. I did not finish the Rome one, but I got really far into it. And one thing I remember about this campaign was that I would leave my characters in when I conquered Byzantium. I left these two sons there, and I would just imagine what they were up to. But the game did not have any support for that because it was a war focused game, right? But I remember wishing that I could get like some information on what was going on in Byzantium, what they were up to. Oh, sorry. And that's something that I guess caused the creation of Historia Realis, like that you can do more stuff other than war. And of course, there was the Rome remastered recently, but that was I played a little bit of that for nostalgia, and even the EB mod works in that. But of course, I couldn't get into it as I got into it as a teenager. But yeah, that's just a bit of my experience with Rome Total War and the Europa Barbarorum mod, which I think is an achievement of humanity. That's how highly I would praise that. So this is the watercolor for today, and thank you.